Welcome to Nemec's movie. The film begins with a team of criminology students crossing a river in a Tesla boat in the middle of a huge jungle. The team consists of Megan, her boyfriend Daniel, and their 4 friends, Josh, Patrick, Larry, and Kate. In the middle of their journey, we see tons of dead bodies lined up all over the island known as Erie Stray, which used to be a prison camp. However, it is now being used for training purposes, and the bodies scattered across the island were intentionally placed this way for the students. They are bodies of prisoners sentenced to death, who have also undergone a series of government chemical experiments. Now the team disembarks from the raft and discusses how to proceed to find their professor. However, not everything is right, as a sign informs that this is a restricted area and only authorized personnel is allowed. Still, the team presses on to continue their adventure, even though the island exudes a nauseating odor, as evidenced by the presence of dead animal bodies. Then, we see an old officer named Oldie helping the professor place dead bodies into a car. These bodies appear to be in an advanced state of decomposition, but the professor is unfazed and closes the trunk of the car. Now the team heads to a prison bus, and as mentioned, the bodies are being exposed so they can study them as part of an internship program. The professor accidentally touches a rusty oil drum, but is reassured by Oldie, who claims everything has been thoroughly cleaned. He also mentions that this will look like a training field and a scientific retreat. The professor doesn't care about his lines but is worried because there is complete silence. He says he can't hear any wildlife, but Officer Oldie seems unconcerned. Now the team asks their driver, Beardo, about his experience driving prison vehicles. It is revealed that Beardo is an ex-convict, but he continues driving the team down the desolate road. The prison bus finally reaches Officer Oldie and the professor, and then Beardo goes to meet them with his smelly beard. However, the professor ignores him and tells him to get away with his beard. He then makes a presentation for the team and explains that they will have to be divided into 2 groups so they can investigate the fake bodies. He also mentions that there is no cell phone coverage here, so everyone will have to use walkie-talkies to communicate with each other. The professor asks if anyone has questions, but no one responds because they find him intimidating. Beardo tells the boys not to take the chicken meat to the storage room, so they proceed. Beardo puts some equipment inside the storage room and takes a break to smoke. However, he doesn't realize that a bit of acid has spilled next to the walkie-talkies, and they get damaged. Before Beardo can do anything about it, despite his mistake, he decides not to say anything and leaves the storage room. Now the team is taken to their room but is informed to use the beds only to sleep and not for hormonal yoga. The students worry when the professor says that the beds will break if there is more than one person in them. But what is worse is that Megan sees a big-toothed rat on her bed, which smells much worse than its own body odor. The team even finds the skeleton of what is believed to be a cat, but they seem to not care. The professor sets up cameras everywhere and calls the group for a meeting. He explains that the groups need to start working, and no one can have any personal contact over the radio. The professor says that the groups will be exploring isolated areas, and it will be a cold and difficult journey ahead, because the life of a forensic scientist is not easy. Megan joins Kate, Daniel picks Larry, and Patrick gets Josh. The professor wishes everyone good luck, and then the groups receive their walkie-talkies for the mission. However, Beardo still hasn't told them about what happened earlier with the acid. As the groups begin their exploration, Beardo starts cutting some meat for dinner. Josh sees a dead body under a school bus and feels creeped out by it, but Patrick tells him he needs to act like a cowboy with bull muscles. The professor watches as Daniel and Larry find another dead body inside the trunk of the car. The body is filled with maggots, but the two begin to make observations about it. The professor warns over the radio that the sun will set in 3 hours, so they need to hurry. He then checks on Megan and Kate, both of whom are inspecting a muddy body. The professor surprises them by communicating abruptly over the radio, making Megan upset. Meanwhile, Beardo prepares his dismembered meat but starts to notice something suspicious, as his chickens are not where he left them. He goes to the professor and explains that 2 of his chickens are missing. The professor doesn't have time for his nonsense, so he tells him to shut his stinking mouth. While Josh and Patrick continue their investigation of the body under the bus, Beardo walks to an isolated area to pee, but sees a dead body and runs away in terror. He bumps into Megan and Kate and tells them what he saw. However, they don't take him seriously, and he feels nauseated upon seeing the body they are studying. The girls are also interrupted by the professor, who tells them not to interact with third parties. Beardo is ordered to leave, but he insists on taking the girls to see the extra body. Kate agrees to go with him and indeed realizes he is telling the truth. She informs the professor about it, but he says it's impossible for another body to be here. Kate is instructed to return to Megan, but Beardo sees the bald body moving, and he panics like a chicken and tells Kate about it. She ridicules him and walks away, but the body wakes up to reveal a decomposing zombie. Back to Daniel and Larry, it seems there is someone around them, and Larry gets alarmed, but Daniel tells him not to get distracted. Now, Kate and Megan continue their investigation, but that's when the walkie-talkies stop working due to the acid accident. Kate begins to suspect that something is off because of the dead body she saw, but Megan tells her not to panic because she needs this internship to work out for her. Beardo bumps into Daniel and Larry, but they tell him to go away because he might contaminate the area. Beardo warns them to be cautious and walks away, but the bald zombie picks up his scent and starts approaching. Beardo notices him and panics for a long time, after which he runs with his smelly beard, but he also stumbles and falls, becoming unconscious. The professor tells Daniel and Larry to return to base, so they do as instructed. Larry trips and falls, then sees a mysterious person in an orange jacket. However, Daniel helps him up and says they need to focus on getting back. The professor tries to communicate with the others and attempts to get them to return, but no one is accessible over the walkie-talkies anymore. Meanwhile, Kate realizes that the extra body has disappeared and starts to panic. It only gets worse when she sees the bald zombie. Then she runs away. A tense chase follows, but Kate gets stuck in the middle of some branches filled with large thorns. The zombie struggles through the branches and manages to reach her. What follows is a true horror show as the zombie devours Kate's body, causing her to scream in pain and even puncturing one of her eyes on one of the large thorns. At the same time, Josh hears the screams and notices someone running around him. He believes something is suspicious and has an argument with Patrick. After he runs away scared, Patrick follows him, and then Megan goes looking for Kate. She eventually finds Kate injured and bleeding, then quickly takes Kate to a cabin and tries to heal her. However, the walkie-talkies are still not working, so she can't contact anyone for support. Kate eventually dies from blood loss, so Megan quickly locks the cabin to prevent intruders from entering. Then, Beardo finds the professor and tells him that this place is haunted, not by ghosts, but by disgusting zombies. He continues to say that this island may have been an illegal zone for sick military experiments. The professor simply thinks Beardo is hallucinating, so he scolds him and tells him to investigate what happened to the walkie-talkies. The men leave the room but fail to notice another bald zombie feeding on one of the bodies. The professor realizes that Beardo messed with the walkie-talkies and scolds him while Daniel and Larry return to base. Kate has reanimated as a zombie, and she attacks Megan. A brief struggle ensues, but Megan manages to subdue zombie Kate by knocking some buckets over her. Now Josh and Patrick return to base, where Beardo tells them that the bodies are coming back to life as zombies. Meanwhile, Daniel and Larry go to the bodies in the car but see that they have been devoured. Daniel thinks it is a wild animal, but Larry has had enough of these pranks and runs away. Josh and Patrick tell the professor that something weird is happening, but he tells them they are more than welcome to drop out of the internship program. Meanwhile, Larry encounters one of the zombies and flees from it. However, he bumps into another prisoner zombie, which means the island is infested with zombies that used to be prisoners. Larry tries to escape, but is ripped apart by them. The professor wants to go fetch his students back, but Beardo isn't interested in risking his life. Now Daniel returns to base, but learns from Beardo that Megan may be in danger. He gets angry and attacks Beardo, but the professor calms everyone down. Meanwhile, zombie Kate breaks free from under the shelf and attacks Megan. Megan manages to stab her through the mouth and pin her to the door, but then Larry bursts into the cabin through the floor because he is also a zombie now. Despite still being skinny, Megan acts quickly and pours acid on him to slow him down. She proceeds to stab his neck, but Zombie Kate pulls her mouth free from the knife and attacks Megan again. With no other choice, Megan kills Zombie Kate once and for all with a stake to her head. Zombie Larry is still there, so Kate cleans herself with some acid and exits the cabin through the roof. Zombie Larry tries to follow Megan, but she uses an acid bomb to kill him as well. Time passes as Daniel searches for Megan, but to no avail. At night, one of the bald zombies attacks the base and Beardo panics, but the professor shoots at it several times. However, when he goes out to inspect the scene, he is attacked by more prisoner zombies. Beardo saves him from being killed and locks him away from the zombies. Now Megan returns inside the cabin and devises a plan to survive the zombie invasion. She sees one of the creatures and lures it into the cabin, having some sort of plan to eliminate it. However, Daniel also enters the cabin, so Megan has him hide with her, and then they attack the zombie that begins to feed on Zombie Kate's body. However, it has extra tough skin, so the couple strikes it and runs away. Meanwhile, the professor goes to attack a bald zombie that is eating chicken meat outside the base. He eventually kills it with a shot to the head, but another prisoner zombie attacks Beardo from under the base. A tense battle ensues, but Beardo is bitten on his muscles, not on his beard, and is dragged down to be killed. After some time, Daniel and Megan find Beardo in his final moments, but he tells them to kill him because he is going to turn into a zombie soon. The couple backs away from him, and then Beardo transforms into a zombie. Now Megan and Daniel enter the same cabin where the decomposing body of Kate is in front of them. On the other hand, Josh and Patrick come across some prisoner zombies and flee desperately. Zombie Beardo approaches the cabin and searches for his next meal, but Megan and Daniel remain hidden. Now Patrick and Josh run to the prison bus and try to start it, as the monstrous zombies try to break in. A tense sequence follows, but they eventually manage to start the bus and escape to safety. Megan and Daniel hear the sounds of the bus, so they head towards it. However, Zombie Beardo attacks them, and Megan accidentally shoots Daniel in the process. She manages to kill Zombie Beardo before he can attack Daniel, and then the couple gets into the bulletproof bus with Josh and Patrick, hoping it is also zombie-proof. They crush some of the zombies in the process, but Josh gets very excited when he reverses into one of the zombies, and the gear gets stuck. A tense sequence follows, as Megan loses her weapon and a frantic zombie breaks through the bus windshield with just its head. Chaos ensues, but Josh manages to rid himself of the zombie by crashing the bus into a cabin. However, the other zombie attacks the team again, and Megan gets cornered. Things seem complicated for her, but Daniel manages to shoot just in time at the zombie, saving her by a hair's breadth. Patrick is shown to have died during the collision, but Josh is instructed to keep driving. Unfortunately, he gets into another accident and dislocates his knee. Megan manages to help him, and then the survivors try to find a way to safety while the bus explodes in the background. Josh and Megan explore their surroundings and spot the only remaining zombie. Megan shoots at it but misses a headshot, so she needs to flee while continuing to shoot at its head, but misses every time, possibly because its bald head is shiny. She runs out of bullets when she finally has a clear shot. The zombie is about to kill Megan, but then Josh arrives and stabs it through the mouth. Megan and Josh step away from the scene, but the zombie is still alive because it hasn't been stabbed in the head. The next day, the professor manages to find the survivors. At that moment, Officer Oldie appears in his car. The professor attacks him and curses him for letting everyone die in this death camp. It is when we discover that this island was used as a testing facility for prisoners on death row. However, something went terribly wrong and led to the creation of Bald. Now the zombie appears once again, so the professor throws Oldie's dying body at it. He then gets into the car with the survivors, but can't start it because the keys are outside. A brutal sequence follows where the bald zombie tears Officer Oldie apart, and the film ends with it turning its attention to the survivors. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.